All right, this meeting of the School Board Appointments Commission is called to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So tonight we'll go over we'll approve the minutes. I will review the voting procedures for those folks who have never done this before. We'll do public participation first, then we'll have our voting session, and then we'll go to other business. Does anybody have any changes to this agenda? Okay. Approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 14th?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I will now review voting procedures. Voting will be held in a round-by-round format. Each commissioner will write the name of the candidate of his or her choice on a ballot and hand it to the commission staff. Votes will be publicly announced. If a candidate receives the legally required 8 or more votes in any round, that candidate is appointed to the Board of Education. If no candidate receives 8 votes in a given round, a subsequent round of voting will then be conducted. Are there any questions? Does everyone have a pad of ballots in front of you? Okay. Next, we have public participation. A reminder that public participation is limited to 3 minutes. You'll see a yellow light when you have 30 seconds left and a red light and a tone will sound when your time is up.
Okay. As all of you know, my name is J.H. Snyder. At the first meeting of the Anne Arundel School Board Appointment Commission, I presented written testimony for the public record of the School Selection Commission's record of secrecy and due process violations. Included in those recommendations were recommendations for amendments to your bylaws. At a subsequent meeting, you approved new bylaws after claiming that you had solicited public comment regarding your proposed changes and that no one had submitted such comments. That is a vintage example of the School Board Selection Commission's track record of professing to value listening and public participation, but acting otherwise when it counts. And forget about me. Look at the complete track record of public participation before the Commission, including tonight, especially regarding due process issues since 2007, when the first Commission was established, since the beginning of this year, when its new iteration was established. The record illustrates that the public, especially parents with children, are too smart to say anything that the Commission's leadership might deem critical. I'm now submitting for the public record my complaint to Maryland's Public Information Act Ombudsman concerning the use of private email accounts to conduct the Commission's business. I've raised this issue multiple times over the past decade, including in public testimony before the new SBAC. From my perspective, Hillary Clinton's use of private email for official business is a model of transparency and accountability compared to this Commission's use of such email. Lastly, I'd like to submit for the public record my op-ed in today's Capital, which summarizes some of the material in my submitted Public Information Act correspondence. In particular, I'd like to call your attention to the Commission's failure to publicly post appointment letters. For about a year, I tried to get official appointment letters out of Joshua Green, the former Commission chair, and he refused to either give them to me or publicly post them because he knew they contained highly politically sensitive information. That was the backdrop to my article in today's Capital. Appointment letters should be publicly posted regardless of whether they contain politically sensitive information. When they aren't publicly posted, a culture takes root that fosters the type of sloppiness described in my Capital op-ed. I hope all of you at this meeting will commit to publicly posting your official appointment documents on the SBAC website. Thank you for allowing me to testify this evening. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Mr. Snyder? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and for the public record, I know I submitted testimony before. I don't know that anyone read it. Remember the first meeting of the SBAC? I'm submitting my Public Information Act correspondence here. I hope you'll take a look at it.
Thank you very much.
As I said in my op-ed, the op-ed in my testimony, the op-ed in today's Capital. Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to voting. So we'll begin with round 1. Please write your chosen candidate in the box your name, printed name, and signature.
Okay. Commissioner Jones has voted for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Carmona has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Ferrara has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Holler has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Alsop has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Vance has voted for Mr. Driver. Vice Chairman Pickard has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Urea has voted for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Klassmeyer has voted for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Brandenburg has voted for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Graw has voted for no candidate. Chairman Kipke has voted for Mr. Driver. So Mr. Driver has 4 votes, Ms. Thornton Connor has 2 votes, and the remainder of the votes are for no candidate.
All right. We're on to round 2 of voting. Please complete your ballots for round 2.
Round 2. Commissioner Jones has voted for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Carmona has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Ferrara has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Holler has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Alsop has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Vance has voted for Mr. Driver. I got them out of order. Commissioner Urea has voted for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Klassmeyer has voted for Mr. Driver. Vice Chairman Pickard has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Brandenburg has voted for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Graw has voted for no candidate. And Chairman Kipke has voted for Mr. Driver. So Mr. Driver, again, with 4 votes.
We need Allison Pickard.
I got it. No candidate. No candidate. Mhm. So Mr. Driver with 4 votes, Ms. Thornton Connor with 2 votes, and 6 for no candidate.
Please complete your ballots for round 3.
Round 3. Commissioner Jones has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Carmona has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Ferrara has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Holler has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Alsop has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Vance has voted for Mr. Driver. Vice Chairman Pickard has voted for no candidate. Commissioner Urea has voted for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Klassmeyer has voted for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Brandenburg has voted for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Graw has voted for no candidate. And Chairman Kipke has voted for Mr. Driver. So Mr. Driver has 4 votes, Ms. Thornton Connor has 1 vote, and 7 votes for no candidate.
Please complete your ballots for round number 4.
Round 4. Commissioner Jones votes for no candidate. Commissioner Carmona votes for no candidate. Commissioner Ferrara votes for no candidate. Commissioner Holler votes for no candidate. Commissioner Alsop votes for no candidate. Commissioner Vance votes for Mr. Driver. Vice Chairman Pickard votes for no candidate. Commissioner Urea votes for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Klassmeyer votes for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Brandenburg votes for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Graw votes for no candidate. And Chairman Kipke votes for Mr. Driver. So Mr. Driver has 4, Ms. Thornton Connor 1, no candidate 7.
I've been lax in this. Would anybody like to explain your vote? Okay, then please complete your ballot for round number 5.
Round 5. Commissioner Jones votes for no candidate. Commissioner Carmona votes for no candidate. Commissioner Ferrara votes for no candidate. Commissioner Holler votes for no candidate. Commissioner Alsop votes for no candidate. Commissioner Vance votes for Mr. Driver. Vice Chairman Pickard votes for no candidate. Commissioner Urea votes for Ms. Thornton Connor. Commissioner Klassmeyer votes for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Brandenburg votes for Mr. Driver. Commissioner Graw votes for no candidate. And Chairman Kipke votes for Mr. Driver. Mr. Driver has 4 votes, Ms. Thornton Connor has 1 vote, and 7 no candidate votes.
Please complete your ballots for round number 6. Oh, does anybody want to explain the vote? Okay, please complete your ballots for round number 6. Six.
Neither of the candidates got more than halfway to the April's meeting, and one fell one vote farther away. I'd like to move that we suspend the voting and reopen the process regarding our candidates.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Brandenburg?
Excuse me, I have a little tickle in my throat. I don't have an issue suspending voting. I do have an issue reopening the process. There was talk amongst this commission about reopening the process before we even interview the candidates, and I have real issue with that. I think that we didn't do fair process, if that's what you decided, or maybe that was already the preconceived outcome. But for those reasons, I'd either like to continue voting or I would like to go ahead and close the process altogether. We put forward the application, we followed procedure, we followed protocol, we got 3 candidates, 1 declined, we had 2, we went through the interview process, and here we are. And so for those reasons, I will not be supporting your motion.
But yes.
I would support that motion. In hindsight, one thing that we might have fell short on is only opening up the application process for 2 weeks. And we maybe if given more thought to that, we should have done the full 30 days like we did the first time we met. But I don't feel like we're going to get any candidate to 8. And I think it's a dereliction of our duties to leave this seat vacant for the next 12 months. So I would be in support of the motion.
I'd like to add some historical perspective, if possible. We've had a school board appointment commission, or a school nominating commission previously. And when Andrew Pruski was put forward, and it was open for 30 days, it was Andrew Pruski, and that was the entire candidate selection pool. When Teresa Burge was put forward, it was Teresa Burge, open for 30 days, and that was the entire selection pool. When myself was put forward, it was myself and 1 other candidate, and again, that was 30 days. So whether it was 2 weeks or 30 days, we had 2 viable candidates. One has military experience, one has VOTEC experience, both which are missing from the current board right now. It's a unique perspective. As I mentioned earlier, I take real issue with wanting to reopen the process before we even interview the candidates. And I'm not sure that 2 weeks would have given me more candidates, giving the historical perspective on what has happened with this commission previously.
And Commissioner Pickard, I'd like to remind you that we all discussed the time period that we would allow for the opening for the applications. You were in full support of that time period at the time, and we all agreed that it was adequate time.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I mean, we did look at 30 days. We looked at 3 weeks. We looked at 2 weeks. And I'm just saying, in hindsight, after I'm just adding to the discussion that we're having now. This is a learning process, and I don't feel we should leave this seat vacant. I don't think that's the right direction to take.
I have a comment. I believe that it's best not to leave it open without us interviewing new people, because just because we only got 2 candidates doesn't mean we shouldn't open it up to see if there's other possible candidates that we could vote for, because just because we only got 2 doesn't mean that we have to pick just because we have 2. It's like a job. You don't just because you have 2 interviewees for a job, you're just going to pick because you had 2. If there's a job that needs to be done and we were elected to pick somebody to do that job properly, we should see it in ourselves to find the person that we find adequate for the job. And we can't just say, oh, well, because we only got 2, let's just vote and be done with this. I take this very seriously. I want to find somebody that I myself believe in. And if I didn't find this now, I'm hoping to find it in the next people that come up. So if we can, I will be here in January. And if not, then I'm going to continue to say I abstain.
Commissioner Haller or any other commissioner, I am curious to know, after 2 weeks of application, the open period, we got the applicants that we got, what indication do we have that we may get additional applications just because we open it back up? And further, both of these candidates, to me, you seem qualified. I think that they would both do a fine job, and I'm curious to know by what criteria you are measuring qualifications if these 2 are not qualified, and what gives anyone the belief that there would be a more qualified candidate if we opened back up the application process.
Madam Chair, on a factual basis, I don't disagree with anything anybody said yet, but we have a practical problem to address. And no, there's no guarantee we are going to get better candidates if we open the process up. But you got 7 different commissioners now that are just sending you a message that they don't believe that either candidate is acceptable. It's folly to think we can do enough rounds of voting that either Mr. Driver is going to get 4 more votes or that Ms. Thornton Connor is going to get 7 more votes. We've done enough we've done enough. We have to break this roadblock, and maybe to do it is see if we can find another candidate or two. So I made my motion, and if I could, I'd like to call the question.
All in favor of, I'll restate your motion if you don't mind.
Suspend the voting and reopen the process, search for more candidates. And I can add to it if that's not out of order. If we've only done 2 weeks instead of 30 days, let's open it for the other 2 weeks that should have occurred.
So your motion is to reopen it for 30 days and reconvene. Do you have a timeline for when you'd like to open it? Would you like to include that in your motion or not?
No, we didn't work that out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm concerned that this sets a precedent moving forward. I think we learn from our mistakes, or we understand the implications of closing it and leaving it open for 12 months. How much, forgive me for my, for being new to this, but if it's closed, there's a repercussion of not having another person on the board for X number of time. And I don't think anybody can assess properly the damage of that route either. So there are a number of options here, and your option is a good one. It's one that I'm hearing, but I can't support it given the process we've gone through.
The question was called. What was the vote?
Yeah. Can I see the show of hands of people who voted in favor of the motion, please? So that's 8 in favor and opposed 4.
By my count, motion passes. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. The motion passes 8-4.
So can I ask a question? So we've agreed to reopen the process.
That's the motion you just passed.
Right. Do we want to discuss next then? Oh, we have the holidays amongst us, so should we decide to accept applications through January 5th, or I'm just making up a date, so.
Well, that'll come under other business, which we are now getting to.
Oh, okay.
So, under other, yes.
Point of information. Will these 2 applicants be permitted to be candidates for the next round?
It wasn't included in the motion. I don't see why not. Yeah. Thank you. Good clarification. Thank you for asking that. All right, moving along to other business, we do need to now determine what our procedures will be going forward. So is there a consensus that we need to have this application period open for 30 days? Most folks were not satisfied with what we got in 2 weeks. The belief is we will get more suitable candidates in a 30-day period. So we will open it up for 30 days, starting when? Should we start it today? Tomorrow? Commissioner Brandenburg?
If the concern truly was 2 weeks and it wasn't enough time, I would like to make the motion that if we're going to open it up, we open it up sometime mid-January and keep it for 30 days then. There's no sense putting forward a candidate days before the board votes on their budget. There's absolutely no way anybody can come up to speed in the matter of a few moments, essentially. I would imagine that we would appoint a candidate sometime after the board votes their budget, second meeting in February.
So your preference is to open the applications.
Beginning of
We'll get
January.
this, of course. So mid-January is your
Yeah,
motion?
beginning
Open it up in
mid-January.
Okay. So like the 8th, the 15th, something like that. All right. Is there any discussion about that?
What is the motion?
Then rather than try to do this for the 30 days that were so incredibly important that we didn't get qualified candidates, in your opinion, that we give 30 real days, not 30 days during the holidays, not 30 days when people are distracted, but 30 real days, which would start sometime after the holidays. My suggestion would be the first or second week of January.
Is there any objection to opening the application period the second or third week of January?
Yes, I think I have one. It's only November 27th. It's pushing it off for 5-6 weeks. before we even announce that we're accepting them? It's too long to wait.
Too long.
Too long, why? We had two qualified candidates that for whatever reason, perhaps it was their political affiliation, I'm not sure what, but for whatever reason, it wasn't acceptable
about their
for
quality. You had seven people saying no, they
seven members
weren't.
of this
That's
commission.
your opinion.
And so, too long, why?
Because we have to get the seat filled at a reasonable time. When I made my motion, I clarified it, but I was trying to extend for another 2 weeks. If we've already done it for 2 weeks,
You want it just to extend for another 2 weeks, or you want it 30-day open altogether from start
I
to
made my
finish?
motion and I clarified it as I
Which
was
was for
asked to
30
clarify
days,
it.
correct?
No. said
When
we
we
didn't-
had conversation discussion, you wanted the
want
candidacy,
me to
the
answer
open
your
period for
question?
30 days, which if you start that now, puts you through the Christmas holiday.
To
If you're-
clarify, sorry, Commissioner Jones, your motion, I thought, and perhaps I misunderstood, your motion was to open it for 30 days. Is that not right? Or you wanted to add on an additional 2
My
weeks
actual
to the
motion
2 weeks
My
that?
actual motion
Yeah.
as written, made originally didn't include whether it was 2 weeks or 30 days.
Right,
When
no.
I was asked to clarify it.
Right.
I said if we didn't get 30 days before, we can open it for 2 weeks, then I'd finish off the 30-day notice.
Got it. Okay,
And
thank
During
you.
the discussion, got changed to a brand-new 30-day period, which is not at all.
I understand. I thought I misunderstood you. I thought that you meant adding 2 weeks to the. I thought you meant creating a new
I'd be
30.
okay with going to
30 day.
open it for 30 days, but I don't want to wait for more than 30 days to hold it for
I understand.
30
I was
days.
just trying to get clarification for what you said in your motion. I misunderstood. Sorry.
So 30 days, December 22nd is when last day of school for students and Board of Ed closes. So that doesn't give you 30 days. And so if in fact we're going to do this, my suggestion would start sometime first week of January when we come back and everybody's ready to go. And we can put out announcements and everything else that needs to happen. That's that first week of January. I believe we're back January 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't give you your 30 days.
Well, we have a motion. Where are we with that? I'm not great with parliamentary procedure, so where are we with this motion?
We are, well, we're discussing it, but we haven't had a second, so we actually should get
Oh.
a second. Sorry, my mic is off. It should have been second before we were discussing, and that's my fault. Forgive me. Commissioner Brandenburg, will you restate your motion, please?
My motion is that if we, per Commissioner Jones's motion, we are reopening this process, and per Commissioner Picard, it's very important to the 8 who voted that no candidate, that we in fact need 30 days to make sure that we have the ability to have as many people who might be interested put their name in, that we start after the holidays, first week of January, the process such that we get the full 30 days in.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Can I make a statement?
Yes.
So I would counter that, or I would add to that, that we look out at the calendar. It is now November 27th. An announcement can be made November 28th. We can take out the holiday break, the school winter break of the 30 days, and convene having applications due sometime, however that math works out, so that we are interviewing sometime in mid-January. And as a previous board member who waited a long time to get appointed by the governor, I had about 5 days before I made a very important vote on the final budget approval in June of 2015. So I'm not concerned about budget votes or anything else. I'm more concerned with getting an appropriate, suitable candidate that 8 people on this commission can feel confident about.
Can I make a comment about that vote in June? That vote is when the council has already appropriated the dollars. That isn't a vote saying, here's what our budget is. That is a vote that the council has now said, here's the dollars we're going to give you. And as a Board of Ed, it's a relatively easy vote to make because you're done asking. You've been given the dollars. Do you want them or not? And the answer is essentially yes. I think the vote in February is significantly more important, and that's my real concern.
Any other discussion?
Well, now that we have one motion made and one other option.
Well, we have to vote on the motion on the floor.
There's no motion on the floor.
There is a motion.
If what Commissioner Pickard brought forward came up as a motion, I would support that before I would support Commissioner Brandon's.
All right. Well, we still have to vote on the motion that's on the floor. So
Which one is on the floor?
the one that's on the floor right now and has been seconded is Commissioner Brandenburg. Would you like to restate it one more time?
My motion would be to open the process. It's on. My motion would be to open the process January 2nd and keep it open for 30 days through February 2nd. At that point, we would conduct interviews and we would make the appointment shortly after the Board of Ed budget vote, which is February 21st.
All right. And Commissioner Vance seconded that motion. So if there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I see that 7-5, is that correct? The opposed, hold your hands up again.
Hands opposed.
Opposed.
Please raise your hands high so they can count
1,
you.
2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 opposed. 4 in favor, 8 opposed, so that motion fails.
All right. Is there another motion?
Well, I guess I'll make the motion to my counter argument. I move that we open applications sometime this week, accepting them through the 5th of January, and decide on a date to vote in mid-January. Interview, excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Please keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 9 in favor. All right. Those opposed?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. All right. So the date.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we're talking about mid-January, we're talking about the 18th?
Well, it's moot now because we're opening the application process again sometime this week now.
So it would be mid-January 18th that week?
For interviews?
For interviews?
Oh, I
We haven't
see.
discussed
We
that.
have not discussed that. That's where I was going with this. So, all right. So what we are doing is opening the application process this week. How easy is it to open it tomorrow, Wednesday?
I think Wednesday's more likely.
Wednesday.
We just need to make some changes to the application package, but they're not major changes. So.
Okay.
Then we'll need to get with you on some dates that the boardroom is available.
Right. So that's where I was going with this. I know it's going to be a busy time in January, and so that is another concern, obviously, for this process. So we maybe can't necessarily set an interview date right now.
Right.
Because
I think that's true.
Okay. All right. So we'll say probably. Wait. So when was the interview process and the application process ending?
January 5th was.
January 5th. Okay. So we would
motion.
be interviewing sometime that following week or the week of the 8th or the week of the 15th. We just have to figure out when the
Yeah,
room
we
is
can
available.
provide the commission with a list of available
Okay.
dates tomorrow.
All right,
That's
thank you.
fine.
One question is, in our August meeting, someone had brought up, and I don't remember who it was, that we wanted like a period of time between when the application period closes and when we start interviews to give us time to read all those applications. And I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it was 2 weeks that folks wanted. So we do need to take that into consideration. If it ends on the 5th, and the application period closes on the 5th. So that would actually put us into either the end of the week of the 15th or the week of the 22nd, which is a little bit later in January. So we'll look at those dates. Okay. Anything else about the dates? I guess we can't set either of those dates right now. Application process will be reopened. Everyone, I'm sure, will get a copy of that press release. Anything else about that issue before we move on to any other business? Okay. Anything else under other business?
Yes.
Yes.
We, in reviewing our bylaws and in going through the last appointment process and this appointment process, we have stumbled onto a problem with our bylaws that state in
I'm gonna pass these here. Copies of the
Article
bylaws.
3, AACPS staff shall serve as staff to the commission, but shall not provide legal advice to the commission. When we've sought legal advice from the Attorney General's office, we've been told that we need to be seeking legal advice from the AACPS staff, but our bylaws preclude us from doing that. So I would like to make a motion to change our bylaws. Since we have no commission budget for where we can contract ourselves with for legal advice, I think we are leaving ourselves open to problems without any sort of formal legal advice. So I'd like to change this statement to just take away that last, but shall not provide legal advice to the commission.
Okay, so you just want to strike it, you don't want to add any other language.
Maybe,
I think striking it is totally adequate. I'm just clarifying.
I'm
the
not
motion.
sure if it's adequate, but I don't know how else to rewrite it.
The way I read it, striking shall not provide legal advice to the commission, or I guess that whole clause, but shall not provide legal advice is, yeah, that'll do it. Is that a motion? Did you make a motion?
I made a motion.
Okay, is there a
yes.
second? Does anybody need a second to read this before we?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so because that vote is unanimous, according to the amendments clause on the last, Article 10, then that can take effect now.
Sorry?
Because the vote is unanimous, that change can take effect immediately.
Great, thank you. All right. Anything else under other business? Anything else from anyone? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Do we need a second for that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
A curriculum or a fourth grade teacher are, we are able to create amazing projects for children to use that integrates with what they're learning. So they're not learning multiple things all the time and they're getting confused. No, we're going to take bits and pieces of what you're learning and incorporate it in our learning as well.
It's like the projects that we do are fun, but it's basically like we're learning and you don't actually notice the learning part because of the projects.
It's my favorite class because it helps us build up their strength in our brain.
You're both learning, but you're learning different things in different ways, like helping yourself and other people.
It's like we don't always do science projects, but in STEM it's like we create something, we try it out, and then we create something else.
What makes my world culture and language class different from any other class is how we do more